Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you have joined me today. Well, the sun did come out. And when I started getting ready, it was sunny and then it was a little cloudy, but I thought we'll just keep going. I'm going outside. So here we are. And if you haven't gotten your tea yet, please pause and get your tea, and I'll be waiting for you. I have a very different tea tray today. I have found in my garden, this is called candy cane rose, and it was one rose blooming. And so this is my tiniest little vase. And it is from years ago. My daughter, when she was in college, went to Trieste, Italy, to study violin for a summer. And this is Trieste. And it is very precious to me because she, being a college student, couldn't bring much back, but she brought me that. And it sits right on my kitchen sink that I see every day. And when I have one flower or something very small, then I put it in the little vase. Trieste is on the Adriatic Sea, high above a cliff, beautiful castle, palace, very famous place in World War II. And the Austrian Empire had built a castle there. Maximilian, who was the brother of Franz Joseph, the last real emperor of Austria, because they lost that crown after World War I. And the husband of Sissy, he had a brother, Maximilian. And Maximilian and his wife went to Trieste and built a beautiful, beautiful castle. And then his wife was very ambitious. She wanted him to be a king, and Mexico was looking for a king. He didn't really want to go, but he went, and because he knew it was dangerous. And sadly, he was assassinated. But Trieste, if you ever go to Italy, I haven't been there. I've been to Italy, but not Trieste. It is on the east coast of Italy, over the Adriatic Sea, and not far from Slovakia, the country of Slovakia. And this was part of that Austria-Hungarian Empire. Well, I have one more rose. This was blooming on my Queen Elizabeth. And I've had this rose bush for, my goodness, 28 years. They were given to me, 2 rose bushes from 2 friends when I had my last child named Elizabeth. And they gave me Queen Elizabeth rose. And they have been coming with me. I had them in pots for years. Well, originally, my husband had built me an arbor, and they went over the arbor. And when we moved from that house, I put them in pots. And the scent is so pure. Oh my, there goes a pine cone. I have a lot of things falling off these trees. Well, when the sun comes, any little leftover leaf or needle or pine cone, and then the wind comes, it blows it all off. Yes. Well, I'm going to tell you why I chose this little darling green Bavarian cup, because it is so special, and it just reminds me of what I want to talk about today. And actually, it's not Bavaria, but their china went all over the world. But this is a little pot that probably would be used for a hotel for service of one. And this is a little creamer like milk in my tea. I don't like cream. I like cream in my coffee. This tea is so good. It's so good in a silver pot. This little cup, I need to show you the saucer. It is so beautiful. It's that, I call that French green. And I chose it today because the pink on it matches my hat and my scarf and kind of my outfit. Well, I chose this hat today because I will tell you, I have a lot of scarves. I just keep them. They're easy to keep. They just fold up. This is my favorite scarf of all my summer scarves. And I'll tell you why. It's because of the colors. It has all the best turquoise, hot pink, orange, yellow, green, blue. And I paired it with some kind of orange and yellow and turquoise earrings and a turquoise shell necklace and on white. And I feel this is my favorite summer outfit of all. And my hat is the first hat that I ever wore on the Tea Talk. Way back when I started in the middle of COVID, my son had sent me this hat as a birthday gift. I hadn't even really thought of doing a tea talk at that time. And it came for my birthday in March, and unbeknownst to him, I had ended up, at the suggestion of several of my children, I do a podcast. That's how the Tea Talk started. I didn't really know the difference between a podcast or a YouTube. One day I thought, I'm just going to do it because we're all locked up, and I'm going to give some good news because I'm happy. And I know God is good and He's in charge. And I know everything is going to work out. Well, that was right before Easter. I think it was 2021. And right before Easter. And some of you have been with me since then, and I wore this hat, the second Tea Talk. And this is my most spectacular hat. Isn't it fabulous? I didn't even know a brim could be this big, but it's fun, and truly it's comfortable. I could wear this to any garden party, and if I were sitting in the sun, I would be like under an umbrella, shaded completely. Well, I did bring a treat. Yes, I don't want to forget that. In my special little, I love this little cookie tin. And it's just a little treat. It is also from Italy, little Italian wafer cookies. They're very small. I'll try to show you. They fit right in the tin. And for a light little tea, people can have 3 or 4 of those, or a handful or more if they want. They look very little, but they're pretty sweet. You don't need more than, I would say, 3 or 4 at the most, but some people might like more. They come in every flavor. They come in hazelnut, chocolate, and lemon. And this one is, believe it or not, we tell the truth on the tea table. This doesn't look like it would. It's peanut butter, a new invention from Italy. They're all right, but I prefer, I think, the hazelnut for me. But you may like those. Now, I usually like peanut butter, but it's fine. It's not bad. But I had them, and I thought I'll bring them and show them for something unique and different today. Well, I have a new plant. My geranium kind of went to seed, and I don't know exactly what this plant is called. I think it begins with a C, Crocilium. I had an orange one and a yellow one a couple years back, And they were so hardy, they endured the whole summer. You only water them once a week at the most, under the leaves. They're kind of like a violet. You don't water much. So we're gonna see how it holds up. Some of my plants have held up and some haven't. And this is, we're playing Mozart's symphony in G minor, and it's just light background music. And musicologists and musicians will tell you Mozart is often compared to fine china. Every note is very special and it's perfect. And I know when my daughter was learning the Mozart violin concerto, her teacher said, you're going to talk to different teachers and everyone is going to have an opinion. There really is no totally right way or wrong way. You must interpret this for yourself and listen to other good players and then give Mozart what you feel. Mozart is, of course, a genius. And what always strikes me about most of these great musicians, they did everything so young and they started so young. Some grew old. Some, like Bach, he was extended life. Haydn, Mendelssohn was not too old, but old enough to write quite a bit. But, you know, Mozart died very young. But look what he left us. He was prolific. If he hadn't been brave and willing to start, we wouldn't have his music. If he had thought like some of us, oh, I have to study more, I have to be more perfect. No, he just gave the world what he had. I think that's a secret. Give what you have today. We have no guarantee of tomorrow, do we? Yesterday's gone. No reason crying over yesterday. We have today. Yes, that is the philosophy of the tea table. Well, I'm going to tell you what my theme is today. Haven't even gotten into it yet. I want to honor one of the most beautiful places in all the world. To me, I will put it this way. There is no place more beautiful that has moved me more than the place I am going to talk about. I've been to Europe, I've been to the Middle East, I've been to some islands of the sea, I've been to Great Britain, and I've seen quite a bit of America. Not all, but quite a bit. But I want to tell you, Banff and Lake Louise, nestled in the Canadian Rockies, are breathtakingly gorgeous. They are quaint. The hotel, Château, Lake Louise, built at the turn of the century to attract people to come by train west, just like the Empress. The Canadian rails were established in the early 20th century, and they was a huge job getting a train through the Rocky Mountains. They had to use dynamite and make tunnels, and they wanted to bring people west. Well, in America, that same thing was happening. Remember when Mount Rushmore was made? It was to try to bring people to South Dakota. And then the establishment of Yellowstone Park. And then way out in Spokane, I'm diverging here a little bit, but in Spokane, Washington, which is eastern part of my state, is Eastern Washington. There's the most beautiful hotel you've ever seen in your lives called the Davenport, built to bring people west. Okay, well, Canada was the same. And the Canadian rails decided they had so much remote land. how were they going to attract people? So as they built the train, they built a great system of Canadian rail hotels. Now, I believe the first one maybe not is, the one in Toronto, but then there's one in Quebec. I forget the name. It's Château, French-speaking Quebec, and perhaps there is one further east even, because I need to research that. But as they went west, you went over all those prairies. You go over Saskatchewan. It's like the Midwest of America. It is the most wonderful soil. It's farm country. It's cattle country. It's rich resources. Well, then you get into those beautiful mountains. And when people went to Banff and Lake Louise, they said, there's nothing like this. We've never seen the Rockies in Canada. I have not been to the Rockies in Colorado. I don't know what they're like. I'm sure they're fabulous. But the Rockies in Canada are so absolutely rugged. And the only thing I could compare them to are the Bavarian Alps. They have that dramatic, and oh my, because of that, they have the glacier and they have the lakes. Now, when you come on the train from the east, you would come into Banff first. And Banff, they built a hotel there called the Banff Springs Hotels, because they had all these wonderful hot springs. So people would come for their health. And the Banff Springs Hotel is built with a Scottish theme, like a Scottish castle with plaid trim, and it's very, very nice. And Banff itself is a darling city. The elk, this is hard to believe, but the elk walk on the street. They're tame, and they don't bother people, and the people don't bother them. And the cars will stop for the elk to cross. It's the most phenomenal thing. Well, I thought that the Banff Springs Hotel was nice. But when I got to Château, Lake Louise, it's built like a French chateau on the lake, and at the end of the lake is the glacier. That is so gorgeous. And because of the glacier, the lake is the aquamarine color that is only created through glacier water. And most of you know what I'm talking about. Now, you can look this up and you can research this yourself and read about it more. And I would like, if you do that, I think it'd be nice for you to look back at the old pictures, because this hotel has been going for 100 years and it has a history. Well, just like anything in nature, they would have hikes. And there's a little hike that people can go to, not little, it's probably a couple miles up a mountain. And at the top, there's a tea room. We didn't get to go there, and I wanted to go there, but we didn't have time. But when we went, I've been to Lake Louise 3 times. Once, way back, was coming through on the train in December from Vancouver, going to visit a friend in Saskatchewan after Christmas. And that was very beautiful, because on the train we went to sleep. It left at night. We went to sleep on the train and went all through BC and then, into Alberta. And we woke up in the morning, and there were the mountains straight up, and the train going through the mountains, and look out and you could see the tail of the train going through the tunnel. Oh my, I said, I've never been to anything this beautiful in my life. And I was very, very young. I believe I was 20. I was my second year of college. No, I wasn't 20. I was 19. And that trip was so special because I had never really been on a Canadian train, and they served everything like this, with silver and linen. And of course the cups were not like this. They would be Canadian rail with their symbol on it, kind of a plain white china with a little train on it. And oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. And then I went, it was a friend that I was visiting, his family, and I got introduced to Saskatchewan, and it was a little town called Swift Current, and it was, all the lakes were frozen. We went ice skating outside. It was all winter. Canada has the most fabulous winter sports. That's why they do so good in the Winter Olympics. Well, that was cattle country, and a lot of wealth, very wealthy people, wealthy through their land and through their farms, hardworking. Mennonite basically started that. And I ended up getting, for my mother, a Mennonite cookbook that they were selling, and she used the recipe for bread for years, and I still use that recipe, Mennonite brown bread. It's the best. It's so simple. It is just literally dark flour, white flour, a little sugar or honey or molasses, whatever you like, and water. And it makes the best bread in the world. Half dark, half light. It's the flour. You have to use good quality flour. Well, the sun is coming. Thank you, Mr. Sun, for coming and seeing me today. I wanted the sun to come on this tea table. Well, so that was my first trip to ever, and I didn't get out and off the train, but I saw this fabulous Château hotel in the middle of the mountains. It was so romantic. Well, then, after my husband and I were married, we always talked about Banff and Lake Louise. Well, one summer, we had a little 2-year-old girl, Victoria, and a baby. Michael was 3 months. And we decided to go in our Mustang and go and see if we could do it. And we drove to Banff and Lake Louise. The kids were so good. I don't know, it was so easy. You go up to Vancouver, you turn right, you go up through Hope, which is by the beautiful lake there. The lake, I'll think of the name of it in a minute. Very famous resort, where all of these resorts have hot springs. That is Harrison Hot Springs. It's famous. Wonderful resort. You go by Harrison, and then you go up to Hope, and you start driving. And there's no traffic, but beautiful roads. And we went through little towns named Golden and Revis Stoke. Before you get to Lake Louise, is called where the Great Divide is. And it's where all that water that comes down from the Rockies, because there's a lot, it comes over, and that's going to create the Columbia River. And because it goes then into Lake Roosevelt, which is very northernmost Washington, and then it goes and creates the mighty Columbia River. Starts up there in the Canadian Rockies. It's just so fascinating. Well, then we got to Lake Louise and this fabulous resort. Well, we didn't stay at the resort, but we had brunch or lunch there, which was a buffet that I have never before or since ever seen a buffet like this. The table had to be about 40 feet long, laden with every imaginable delicacy: salmon, beef, fowl, every conceivable dessert, vegetables, salads, rolls. I mean, it was truly fit for a king. I don't know if they still do that, but it was so fun. And then we sat in the dining room and looked out at the glacier. Well, then we drove on and we stayed in Banff. And a nice lady in those days, she had a house and it was like a bed and breakfast. I remember she was so beautiful. She had this beautiful old Anne of Green Gables white wooden house that we stayed in. And she hung her clothes on the line and she was so nice. I love Canada so much. We love Canada. And I'm talking about this today because I heard today the saddest news, and I want us all to pray for Canada. They've had such terrible fires. North of Lake Louise in the Rockies, there's a town called Jasper. Now, we never got to Jasper. It was just too far. But Jasper today, it has been evacuated. All the tourists, they had 5 hours to get out. The wildfires are just going. I guess they had a dry summer and the winds have blown. I'm just praying to God they can stop it, but they couldn't get any help from the BC people, British Columbia, because they have fires of their own. We have to pray because if any of those hotels, like the Château, Lake Louise, they could never replace it. These are 100-year-old, beautiful. They're built with such heart and love. Well, that trip we went on to Banff, and then instead of going back, we thought we were really on an adventure. We'll drive south down to Idaho. So we got on the road and went through Penticton and all what they call the Canadian Summerland, and ended up going through a little town called Fernie, BC, which I said to my husband, this is like the Wild West. And we had to stop at the only little restaurant or hotel. We walked in and it was the Wild West. There were cowboys with guns, and I mean, really it was. I said, let's quick get back in the car and keep going. So we went south and drove all through where all these wonderful places. We didn't stop, but they're all springs. You know, they all have these hot springs and they're so wonderful. So let's keep our eye on Canada and pray to God they can stop this fire. This is so terrible. I know people that go on vacation often to Banff. It's a wonderful place if you have a little trailer or a motorhome, if you're not going to stay in the hotel. I would never advise go there. Don't go there in a tent. There are huge bears and wildlife. It's too dangerous to be in a tent, truly. So, but you know, I just wanted to say, travel is the most important thing you can do for education. I encourage young people, travel while you're young. Don't wait. You think you'll wait? Other things in life crowd in. Life gets so responsible. I'm so grateful I traveled when I was young. And I was thinking of travel because Ellie that you met, she just got back from Greece and had a fabulous time with her school. They went with her teacher, a whole group, on a historical trip to Greece and the islands. Then I'm hearing from our other friend from the tea table, Elizabeth. She's with her family in Great Britain. She sent me pictures of Scotland and the wonderful castle there in Edinburgh Castle, and you know how important St. Columba is on this tea table. Well, he has a stained glass window in the castle, and I didn't know that, with St. Margaret. Yes, and with Wallace, Braveheart, Wallace, William Wallace. There's 3 stained glass windows. I'm going to get pictures and show you. But even if you can go on a day trip, on a picnic, we need to fill up with summer beauty, nature, with seeing old friends that we haven't seen. You know, in the olden days, they had camp meeting, and they used to go and meet all the friends and fill up for the winter, the long, cold winter. Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And I have to tell you, I solved my little issue with my clicker. Guess what? My little clicker, the battery was low. I got a new battery, and now it works. Isn't that phenomenal? And when I went to the battery man, this takes a little round battery. I said, well, there's so many different sizes. How do you know? He said, you don't know. He said, every manufacturer creates a different size. They all have the same voltage, but they're different size. He said, you just have to bring in your device. And I'm so glad I did. Well, God bless all of you. Have your tea, have a picnic, and by the time next tea table comes, tell me what you do for fun. Send me some comments of some good suggestions for people in summer fun that's nearby. Yes, we need to know. The newspapers hardly work anymore, and I don't know how people keep up on local events, word of mouth, but so I think we need to share with one another. Thank you for joining me. Have a fabulous week, and God bless. Oh, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and like if you liked it. Share if you want to share it. And I love your comments. God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.